Okay, seven. So today we're going to have a look at measurement. It's a new topic that we're starting, and I just want to have a look at the introduction to it because we're going to skip exercise 10A. It's not really useful. I'm going to put a YouTube clip on that you can have a look at later as to understand why this is, but we'll have a quick look at it. We're going to basically look at units of length and converting, and we're only really going to be talking about distance. So when we talk about measurement, and we're talking about something that mathematicians have done throughout the history of our time on this planet, which is that we measure it. So we find how far things are away, how long things are, uh, how much area there is, how much volume in something there is. We measure the time, which is the rotation of the planet and the planet's movements around other planets. We measure everything. So when people are making, or when civilizations decided, and you can see here they talk about measurement here, and all the different things you can see around the world. So things like the Eiffel Tower, the Great Wall of China, pyramids, the maximum temperature on Mars, distance about orbs. So all those sorts of things. They're just measurements. But when they started measuring, how are you going to tell how big something is? And they started by using body parts. So Egyptians used different body parts, and they talked about the royal cubit, which we'll have a look at, or you'll see in the YouTube clip on how long is a piece of string, which is a fantastic video. You need to watch that. And then there were all sorts of imperial measurements. So we have the Roman system that picked up on the cubit, and then they have a foot and a pace and a mile because the Romans, they had their army and they wanted to make sure that when they got around, and that's how they worked it out, how many, well, there are 500 paces or whatever. The imperial system, which also had a foot, but then yards, and they were based on imperial measurements from imperial people, kings and queens. And eventually, the world got it together, and because of the French mainly, we got the metric system, which is based on units of 10. All these other measurements, as you can see, look at them. There's 16s and 6s and 12 inches and 3 feet and 22 yards and all sorts of different things. Eventually, they said, let's get rid of all that. Let's standardize it and make it based on our decimal system. So we'll make measurements based on 10. Although we still use a base 60 measurement for time. There are 60 minutes in an hour, there are 60 seconds in a minute, and there are 24 hours in a day, which is how we decided to break up the rotation or the spin of the Earth. All right, so we're not going to spend any time on looking at old measuring systems. You can go and have a look at that. It's interesting. We're going to go straight to the metric system. Now, in the metric system, and we're talking here mainly about distance, we're going to be looking at our standard unit of measure. So you need to make some notes here. And our standard unit of measure. Well, let's start with something to begin with. Oh no, we'll start with the standard unit of measure for distance, the distance standard. Across all nations now, also some people still use the imperial measurement system, but most people have come to this, is the metre. And our metre is our standard unit, and the metre is broken up into different things. So if we go smaller, we get a centimetre, which is a hundredth of a metre. There are 100 centimetres in a metre. You can even go down further and have nanometers and micrometers, but that's all we're going to go to with us. And then we have a meter. And then if we go bigger, you can have a kilometer. And that's a kilo. Whenever you see kilo in units, that means 1,000. So that's 1,000 meters. Oh, and then we can have a millimeter, which is 1,000th of a meter. So, and you can see they're all base 10. But in the textbook, they have this great little conversion unit here, which I want you to write out. And I'm going to write it out for you so you know how to write in your books. It's exactly the same way. When we're converting kilometres, and these are the abbreviations we need, meters, centimetres, and millimetres. Okay, so when we go down, when we're going down from kilo to meters, kilometres to meters, or meters to centimetres, or centimetres to millimetres, we multiply by the appropriate power, or the appropriate multiple of 10. So we know that there are 1,000 kilometres. So when we're going from big kilometres to small metres, you multiply by 1,000. So if you've got 3 kilometres, you multiply by 1,000 and you get 3,000 metres. When you're going to metres, to centimetres from metres, well, you know there are 100 centimetres in a metre. So we multiply by 100. So if you've got 3 metres, you multiply by 100 and you'll get 300 centimetres. And then when we go from centimetres, big centimetres, down to little millimetres, well, we know there are 10 millimetres in a centimetre. And we just multiply by 10. Now, when we're coming back, when we're going back, the other way, well, we do the opposite operation. So instead of multiplying by 10, we'll divide by 10. And instead of multiplying by 100, we'll divide by 100. And instead of multiplying by 1,000, we'll divide by 1,000. So, if you use this, that's so easy. You will not get any questions wrong. And sometimes you might have to go not one jump, but 2 jumps, but you just do the operation twice. So, I've asked you in your work to do questions 1, 4, and 6. So let's have a look. Okay. Now, if you've just filled out that time, if you've drawn that little diagrammatic scaffold for you to answer these questions, you're going to be able to answer these ones correctly. So, when converting from meters to centimeters, well, let's have a look again. From meters to centimeters. Here it is. To go from meters to centimeters, multiply to go here. Can you see it? Here it is. I multiply by 100. So I go down here. When I convert from meters to centimeters, I multiply by 100. When converting from meters to kilometers, use your little diagram. Meters to kilometers, I divide by 1,000. Converting from centimeters to meters, well, that's centimeters to meters. Oh, that's this one. I divide by 100. You can just use the symbol divide by. You can write the word. And when I go from kilometres to metres, you multiply. Converting to a smaller unit, you multiply. Converting to a larger unit, you divide. All right, let's have a look at these. I've only asked you to do questions 4 and 6. And what do we have to do? And this is how I want you to set it out. 5, so this is 4a. 5 centimetres equals, and I'm going to millimetres. So go back up here, look at your diagram. Centimetres to millimetres, I've got to multiply by 10. I'm going to bring that down here if I can. Oops, I've gone too far. So I'm just going to draw it again so it's right next to where I am. So here it is again. I'm going to do it really quickly. Kilometres, metres, centimetres, millimetres. Going this way. 1, 2, 3 times by 1,000 times by 100 times by 10. Going the other way. 1, 2, 3. I divide by 10, divide by 100, divide by 1,000. Okay, so 5 centimetres, and what have I got to make it into? Millimetres. So I'm going to times by 10. 5 times 10, 50 millimetres. Let's have a go at the next one. 2 metres to centimetres. 2 metres. Now if I'm going to make metres into centimetres, I go back here, metres into centimetres, times by 100. So I get 2 times 100, 200 centimetres. And it's very important that you write the units there. Let's go to one that has, the next one has a decimal, 3.5 kilometres. So 3.5 kilometres. And I've got to go to metres. Well, I look back up here. Kilometres to metres are times by 1,000. Now, if you have trouble with this, you are allowed to use your calculator. So I'm going to do this one with the calculator. Come on, where is it? There it is. Let me get rid of this. So I just go 3.5 times 1,000, 3,500. Metres. These are all pretty much the same. Let's see if we can get one that goes the other way. Millimetres. So I'm going to E now. So that was A, B, C. You have a go at D on your own. Now, E is the first one that goes the other way. I've got millimetres, so 40 millimetres, and I need to make it into centimetres. So I look back again, millimetres to centimetres, I divide by 10. Now, if you're good, you can just go, oh, that's going to be 4 centimetres. But remember, you can use your calculator. Okay, let's do a couple more of these. Let's go to one that has a decimal. Hold on, centimetres to metres. So let's do F. And I've got 500 centimetres to metres. 500 centimetres. Well, what do I do here? Centimetres to metres, I'll divide by 100. Again, use your calculator. 500 divided by 100, you will get 5 metres. That makes sense because there are 5 metres in a 500. There are 100 centimetres in a metre. All of these are pretty standard. Let's just do G because it's a kilometre one to finish. And I've got 4,200 kilometres. And I need to make that, 4,200 metres. And I need to make that into kilometres. Well, I have to divide by 1,000. You go back and have a look at that. Get your calculator. 4,200 divided by 1,000. 4.2. So 4.2 kilometres. And that's all you have to do. Now, I was hoping there would be one there that has a double jump, but there isn't. So we're going to get those when we go to question 6. So here, I'm going to put question 6. I'm going to make it so 6A. 3 metres into millimetres. So these are our double jumps. So 3 metres, and I've got to put that in millimetres. Well, I've got to do a double jump. I've got to go from metres to centimetres, so from here to here and then here to here. So I've got to do 2 steps. So from metres to centimetres times by 100, and then from centimetres to millimetres times by 10. And I don't want to make a mistake with that, so I do it on my calculator. 3 times 100, and then I'll just times by 10, 3,000. So I get 3,000 millimetres. B, what have I got here? 6 kilometres into centimetres. So 6 kilometres into centimetres. Again, that's a double jump. The first jump, I times by 1,000. And then the second jump, I times by 100. Again, I don't want to make a mistake, so I'll go 6 times 1,000, and then I'll go times 100. And that's 1, 2, that's 5 zeros. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the same number of zeros that are here. That's why we use the decimal system or the metric system with the decimal system, because we're just multiplying by powers of 10 or by 10, 100, 1,000. Let's see one that might give us a decimal or might make us go the other way. So I want to try and get one that goes from small to big. So let's look at E, and 6E is 47,000 centimetres. E, 4,700. Did I say 4,000 or 40,000? 47,000 centimetres. Well, this time I'm going centimetres, so I'm going the blue way. I've got to divide by 100, and then I've got to divide by 1,000. Now, you can do that or try it in your head, but then use your calculator. So if I'm going to divide it, that means I'm going to move, for those of you who are smart enough, the decimal point is here. I'm going to move it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to get 0.47, I think, of a kilometre, but let's try it. So I go to my calculator. So 47,000 divided by 100, and you will give me a metre, then divided by 1,000. 0.47. 0.47 of a kilometre. Let's try one more of these. These are a bit harder. They're a double jump and division is difficult, but let's see how we go. 6. We'll do F and I'll do H, but I want you to try them on your own. So 913,000 913,000 millimeters. So 913,000 millimeters, and I've got to make that into centimeters. So again, look up here. To go from millimeters, I divide by 100, and then and that'll give me centimeters, and then I millimeters to centimeters, divide by 10, and then centimeters to meters, divide by 100. So here, divide by 10, then divide by 100. You could just move the decimal spot the same number of zeros, so you could go 1, 2, 3, and it should be 913 meters. But let's just check on our calculator. 913, 1, 2, 3. I'll divide by 10, and then I'll divide by 100. 913. And remember to write your units. So 913, and what units are we in now? Meters. You have a go at the others. You should stop the video and have a go at the others, but I'm going to do the last one. I'd rather you stop the video, have a go on your own, because it's quite a difficult one. Here it is, 0.5 millimeters into meters. So this is a H, 0.5 millimeters into, what am I going to put in? Meters. So to go from millimeters to meters, I'm doing the same thing again. I've got to divide by 10. That'll get me centimeters, and divide by 100, and that'll get me into meters. And this one's a bit trickier because it's a decimal. For those of you who are trying to do it in your head, so there's the decimal point, and I've got to move it 1. How many zeros? 3, sorry. 2, 3. So that's where the decimal point is, and I've got to put these zeros in. So my answer should be 0.0005 meters. But let's just check on the calculator. So I've got 0.5, and I'm dividing by 10 and dividing by 100. 0.0005. All right. There you go. And now it's going to go, I can't believe it's all gone on the bottom. So that is how you do converting units. Make sure you have a quick look, if you can, at the link I've put on the website to see how long a piece of string is, and make sure you have this, all right? And in the video, I ask you, if you can watch how long a piece of string is, to define what a meter is. So you'll see it on the website, but I want you to go, a meter is defined by the distance that light travels, the distance travelled, the distance that light, I forgot the light, covers, covers in 1 something of a second. How far light travels in 1 part of a second. You've got to work out what fraction that is. Okay.